Hi, and welcome to the Living Fullness podcast. I'm Stina.
And I'm Father Burns.
And on this episode, we're going to have a chat about whether complaining is a sin, the effects it has on our hearts, and some practical changes we can make.
If you're new here, we chat about the virtues, relationships, make comments on culture, and we discuss living the Christian life. And we're very glad to have you join us.
Okay, so this is a fun topic.
Yeah, right. Complaining.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat of an expert.
On the complaining or the conversation about complaining?
Complaining.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, complaining.
So I guess firstly, let's just clarify that in this episode, we're not talking about gossiping. I do want to make a distinction that we're not really talking about gossiping about somebody else. So this isn't really necessarily about other people as such that we're talking about. I'm thinking more for this conversation, it's really about the things in life that impact us, that are directly related to us, the complaints that we might make to other people about some sort of dissatisfaction or annoyance that we might have. So I think we can kind of agree that at the heart of it, complaining, there isn't really much fun to it. On the surface, perhaps, but at the heart of it, it's not really fun. It's not really all that enjoyable. It's certainly not rejuvenating. It's not life-giving, that's for sure.
All right.
Having said that, though, sometimes making complaints is necessary. So there is a time and a place. So in the case of, let's say something was done towards us that wasn't good, that needs to be named and identified so that it doesn't happen again towards us or towards someone else. Or maybe we observed something happening towards someone else, like an injustice that takes place.
Yes.
Well, it actually is on us to be able to bring that to someone's attention and say, hey, I'm not okay with this.
Yes.
This needs to shift and change. Or that wasn't okay. We need to make changes. And that is a way of making a complaint, but it's a justified way of making a complaint.
All right.
That's a good thing. So making that kind of a complaint then comes from the virtue of justice being played out. And that's a really good thing. But we also can have experiences in life where I'm thinking particularly in relationships, for example, where we might not necessarily experience something from the other person where they've done like an injustice towards us, but we might have a preference. And so it is in a kind of way, it's on us to be able to bring forward our need and to be able to say, I actually prefer whatever preference it is that we might hold. And so that could kind of be seen as a complaint. I would think of it more of as a bringing forward a need. Nobody likes to be the person to be told, I don't like the way you love me.
Right.
So I would prefer, and it would be better for relationships if we didn't complain about each other in terms of how we're being loved, but instead be able to bring up, actually, this is a way that I would prefer to be loved.
Okay, fair. The question then might be asked, and indeed we put it forward in the very sort of introduction of this topic, is it a sin?
Right.
Is it a sin to complain? Story time.
Ooh.
About 10 minutes before we began this episode.
Yep. Are you going to out me right now?
Oh, totally. So
yep.
So
it's okay. 50% of the population will be on my side, so it's fine.
So we were. I don't know how the topic actually came up. I was finishing some of my sections of the notes, and Stina was telling me about pockets in clothing, and oh, that's right. You were telling me about your coat that came in. It didn't have pockets.
Yeah.
And I was making fun of you.
Yeah. Because I made note you're wearing your blue jacket. I was like, oh, yes, my jacket arrived. My blazer arrived.
Yes, yeah.
But I bet your coat, your jacket probably has at least 3 pockets.
That's right. But I was like, I really wasn't very understanding at all.
Yeah, no.
I was just like, I was just like, no, I'm sorry. This is, but now that was, I found that quite funny.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, isn't it? When 50% of the entire population saying this is a problem, it's actually, you can see it's actually a valid complaint, right? Mm. It's a valid complaint that dresses and stuff.
Jackets, blazers.
Blazers are covered by and stuff. So that doesn't have pockets.
Yeah.
Now I put that in there at least partially so that 50% of the world doesn't come after me and be like, you were making fun of what? You were saying, well, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm on your side. So I think that complaint in and of itself is not necessarily sinful, right? There can be something which demands complaint.
Yeah.
But perhaps when complaint becomes more of an expression of our being wrapped up within ourselves, perhaps when complaint is no longer a matter of justice or a matter of preference, but a matter of only my preference will do and only my way will do. And if I don't get things my way, then I am going to be extraordinarily unpleasant to others. I think once it reaches sort of a self-centered stage, that perhaps that's the point where we go, that's perhaps entering the realm of sin, because it's not motivated by an expression of my preference, nor is it motivated by an authentic injustice or need that has not been met. It's motivated by perhaps my pride. And working at Blockbuster Video as a young fellow in high school, I saw, I think every retail worker sees this, there are some complaints which are very, very just. There are some complaints which are very, very just, but then there are other complaints where it's just not just. Like I remember one guy coming and complaining, "Why is this video always out?" It's like, because it's popular. I'm sorry, dude. I can't help you.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't take it out. We're not conspiring against you here.
Yeah.
But it was, I'm the center of the universe and things should bend to my will. And if they don't, I will complain. I think at that point, it does become a sin.
Yeah.
And the nature of the complaint shifts as well. The nature of the complaint becomes almost pathetic in a certain sense. You know, it's no longer about something that matters. It's about something that's quite irrelevant.
Does it become a bit like not every vice is a sin?
Well, so think about it this way. Every vice manifests itself in sin, right? So a vice is a stable disposition towards that which is evil, right? So complaint, when it comes from a place of justice, is actually fine.
Yeah. Well, it's not just fine, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Complaint, when it comes from a place of love, is good. Complaint, when it comes from the vice of pride, is bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So all vice manifests itself in badness. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's a really clear distinction where just following on from what you've just said, Padre, I think we do have to also be mindful of the complaints though, because even the jesting kind of pockets complaint that I made before,
sure,
even that can turn foul.
Absolutely, yes.
If that was to come from a place of pride, like you said, or deep hurt in some way, or if that was to be added to other things that perhaps I've experienced, so it kind of accumulates, that could turn foul.
So complaint then perhaps can come not only from a place of pride, but it might also come from a place of wrath.
Yes.
Right. Of extreme anger.
Yes.
So definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so I guess I'm thinking in particular, like more recently, having had to be a bit more mindful of my health. I've had to make some changes, and some of that has been like dietary changes, and I've had to go on quite a bit of a restrictive diet for a little bit.
Sure.
For the sake of my health. And that has not been fun. It has not been something that I've enjoyed.
No, understandable.
But it's also not been something that I've carried very gracefully either. I have made it known that this is a dumb diet. Every time I realize, I can't have that vegetable, or I can't have seeds, and I can't have nuts. Like, it's been complaint central.
Sure.
And it just kind of got to a point where I stopped and thought, this isn't good. Like, this is not this doesn't feel good. Like it started off as just a joke, as something to laugh at and for other people to join in on the laughter. But it's become this kind of habit that's not nice. It's not breeding anything. It's not growing anything nice. It's just breeding this foulness.
Yep.
And I took it to prayer. And I was like, okay, God, I can see it. Whoops, my bad. Can I have some help on adjusting this, please?
Yeah.
And here I was kind of sitting there thinking, okay, all right, let's find where this started. What was I lacking at that time? Like, what was I trying to do? Get my intentions straight, thinking through it very methodically, very strategically. And then as I'm praying, God's like, but remember how you wanted like these two things? And I remembered that I'd actually prayed and asked for two particular things in my interior life. And I realized then that the health struggle that I'm having now is an answer to both of those prayers.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh, okay. So now I'm sitting with, not only did I get gifted something, but also I took the blessing and made it sound like something that wasn't a blessing.
Yeah.
So instead of having to think through strategically then, all I really needed to do was just go, oh, well, it's a blessing. So if I operate from a place of blessing, I actually don't have anything to complain about. Right. It's not an inconvenience. It's not like it just isn't anymore. So he kind of just like bang, gone.
Yeah. And perhaps that's where perhaps complaint then can become a bit of a sin as well, is when complaint stems. So we've identified from pride or from wrath, but perhaps also from a lack of gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. Where there's that lack of recognizing the gift that's been given.
Yeah.
As you know, I do boxing with Father After a couple of times a week. And Father After and I go to a gym called High Tone Gym in Wagga. If anyone wants to learn boxing, great place. And the guy who they're very mild-mannered, well-mannered Italian gentleman by the name of Tony Salafia. And Tony pushes us to the brink. So he gets us the first probably 35 minutes or 40 minutes of class is fitness training.
Mm-hmm.
And it is grueling. It is grueling. It's 3 sets of 3 different kinds of exercises, 3 sets each.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you do 1, 2, 3 for 3 lots.
Yep.
And then there's another lot of 3 and another lot of 3.
Yep.
And then once through each one of those sets.
Uh-huh.
And by the end of it, you are ragged, right? And during it, like he'll often throw in new exercises each week. So he'll go, so we're going to do this exercise. This one's called a mountain climber, or this one's called this or that. And often my complaint will be, I have a counter offer. How about we don't do that?
That's your counter offer.
That's my counter offer. How about we don't do that?
Let me guess. He doesn't take it.
He doesn't take it. He doesn't take it. I put it on the table, but he's just, what can I say? He's thankless. So by the middle of it, I find myself complaining. Oh, this is so hard. It's this, it's that. And Tony, being a good Catholic, reminds both Father After and I, hey, opportunity to offer it up. Opportunity to offer it up. Which I got to admit, it does sting a little bit, right? Yeah. It does sting. Like we're being reminded, just flat out. Hey, you can offer this up. You can offer this up. It's like, okay. So, we do our best not to complain. But it's again, it's that for me, it's that the desire to focus on my own pain or my own like physical pain at that particular time and choosing not to do anything with that. Just like I'm just going to focus on the fact that it hurts and I just want to stop. I just want to stop and flop and that's it.
Yeah. And
then after all of that, he'll go, all right, time to spar.
Yeah.
And you're like, we've just been through 40 minutes of work. You can't do that. And offer it up. And so off you go, and afterwards you look at it and you think, man, I should have done that better. I should have offered that up better, because that was, as Tony rightly points out, that was an opportunity, right? Yeah. It was an opportunity to offer up some small physical suffering. I mean, first world physical suffering, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it was an opportunity to offer something up, something simple for a soul that's in need. And I think when we focus perhaps too excessively on our own situation, we sometimes forget to offer up the little complaints of life. And so it's that's something which I'm slowly learning. Slowly learning. Yeah.
We knew there was such big lessons to be learned in the boxing ring.
There totally is. There totally is.
I'm thinking to a couple of places in Scripture as well, in terms of complaints, like thinking about, well, how does God want us to handle this? How does He, and how do we as humanity handle it as well? And so I'm thinking about the Garden of Eden and when Adam and Eve are being spoken to by God after having eaten from the forbidden fruit. And Adam's really quick to say, it was the woman that you put me with.
Isn't he? Isn't he?
And we can kind of read that and go, oh, he's shifting the blame to her like very quickly. You can see that there was something missing for Adam or a felt sense of maybe not missing, but there was a longing or a yearning. Wow, words.
A yonging. A yonging. I'm going to use that in the future. A yonging.
A yearning or a longing for Adam.
I love it.
And you can see it because you see what he comes out with the moment Eve is put in front of him. He's immediately like, oh, at last.
Yes.
And so you can see there that even though he had these desires, that there was something more that he wanted or was looking for, even, as he's kind of going through and naming all these creatures in the garden, he has a different disposition then to when after he's eaten of the fruit, where he goes straight to what was her, the one that you put me with. I think on a surface that says something about how we shift blame onto other people.
Yeah.
But I think if we look again, I think we see something even more happening here, and we see that Adam doesn't just shift blame on her, Adam shifts blame onto God.
Yeah.
He goes to say, it was the woman you put me with. Wasn't just, well, it was the woman or it was her. It was the woman you put me with. So he has the audacity to turn around and say, well, you did it.
Absolutely.
You, God, you're the one who did, you're the one who did this. It's all your fault.
One of the things that my father would do is that we'd be in traffic and we'd get to some busy street in Albury, or better yet, travelling in Sydney, some busy street. And Dad would go, yep, this is right. Absolutely. Yep. You just had them wait for me, didn't you? Yeah, that's right. Now they're all here. And it's sort of, it's taking a frustrating situation and foisting that on God, right? Yeah. But as a matter of fact, if we had left, sorry, Dad, if we had left 5 or 10 minutes earlier, that may not be the case. Yeah. Right?
We would have been in a different situation.
Space, yeah. But because we're angry and things haven't worked out, why is this happening, God? It's your fault, right?
Yeah.
And there's Adam looking at the situation that he's in, not wanting to take personal responsibility in the situation and going, well, no, it's your fault, God. It's your fault, God. No. Time for some self-reflection.
Yeah.
Like, where do I need to take responsibility here? Rather than spuriously complaining, making spurious complaints, where's the responsibility need to be here?
Yeah. And there'll be occasions where we won't be solely responsible. So Adam wasn't solely responsible for the fall, but he didn't take any responsibility.
Right.
So there's a midpoint there.
Right.
Take responsibility for your part. Play in it.
Exactly. So not only does he, and this is where you see perhaps complaint at its worst, is that not only does he take no responsibility for it, But in fact, he shifts responsibility onto an innocent party.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I think that's perhaps the worst of complaint is when we complain about someone who is innocent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, we do this like in the traffic example you gave. I'm also thinking like when we get sick, like we start complaining about, oh, well, you know, I'm sick and the timing is poor and, oh, this happens in life and it's always this way. And who are we shifting that blame to when we say that?
Right. Exactly.
What are we actually saying?
Exactly.
Are we saying that this was what God wanted for us in this moment, that he wanted to disrupt us, that he wanted to inconvenience us? Is that really what we're saying?
Yep. Even if he did want to disrupt us and inconvenience us, it's going to be for our good. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, it's not an actual inconvenience.
It's not an
actual disruption.
Right? It's a I can remember getting terribly sick earlier in the year, or was it late last year? I don't know. At some stage, I was terribly sick, and it was just the wrong time to get sick. You know, there's so much going on, and I was bedbound. And Bishop made a very keen observation, which was, well, there was only one way that God was going to get you to rest.
Yep.
And he goes, how many other times do you think God was telling you to rest before he allowed this to happen?
Going back to bed now.
Fine. Okay. I got up for a meal not to get truth slung my way. Thank you very much. So
the perks of living with your bishop. I love it. Another place that I see this kind of unfolding is also in the gospel with Martha and Mary. When Jesus visits with his friends to Martha and Mary's home, we hear in Luke's gospel that Martha was distracted with much serving and that her sister Mary sat at Jesus' feet. And look, if I'm being 100% honest and I'm putting myself in that same situation, I know who I'd be. I know I'd be Martha.
Sure.
I know I'd be like, okay, is everything right? Like, have I got everything out of the oven? Is everything plated up? Do I need to re-pour the drinks? Like, 100% that would be me. So I'm not even going to pretend otherwise.
Do you know what I remember? I was only ordained about a year, maybe even less. It might have only been 6 months, right? A friend of ours got ordained and we were both at that ordination.
Yeah.
And I'd walk through the door of the sort of after party. Do you remember this? Yes. So I walk through the door, and everyone's doing stuff. Like Stina's got. I think you were cutting carrots or something.
Yeah.
You
were 3 or 4 of us lined up. Yeah.
There was Katrina Cooper was doing this or that, and this other one was over here doing this or that.
Yeah.
And so I just sit down. I'm like, hi guys, how's it going? and you just look at me and go, are you going to make yourself useful? Whoops. Can I cut something?
It was great because you came and sat directly opposite us and just sat down and started talking.
I did. I literally did nothing. And
here, cut some stuff.
So yes. Yeah.
So yes, that would be me. Yes. Oh,
you were right to do that, by the way.
Well, I guess also thinking about what it must have been like for Martha, I can also see myself getting upset with Mary. Mary, like if I had a sister Mary who went and sat at the feet of Jesus whilst I'm running around everywhere serving, I think I'd have a similar reaction to Martha and be upset that Mary wasn't noticing that I'm running around serving all these people who are guests to our home, not just my home, but our home, and feeling like she's not doing her part. So what Martha does here, instead of going up to Mary and saying, Mary, can I have a word with you quickly, pulling her aside and going, Mary, I run off my feet. Like, I need some help. I get it. I want to go and sit at Jesus' feet too. I want to be able to listen to what he has to say too. But can you give me a hand so we both can do this really quickly?
Yep.
And then we can both go sit down. That's not the approach that Martha takes though.
No.
Martha doesn't do that. Martha goes straight up to Jesus and very quickly says to him, do you not care?
Right.
Like, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do the service alone? Yeah. So she's doing a similar thing. She's not saying, Yes, I know I'm running around, Lord. Yes, I know I'm keeping myself distracted, Lord. And I know I probably should pull Mary aside and be like, Mary, can you come and give me a hand? No. Do you not care, Lord? So now it's no longer about what she needs, but now it's about the fact that she doesn't have this interior peace. She doesn't have everything in order is Jesus' fault.
There is now something deficient in the Lord.
Yeah.
Right.
If he cared enough,
yeah.
this situation would have been different.
Yeah. And you can see that as a complaint that has festered, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just a complaint that's happening. It's a complaint that has erupted in the heart that may well have a fair foundation, right? Which is, listen, Mary, if you could give me a helping hand here.
Yep.
But then it's sort of been allowed to fester so that from perhaps what was once a justified complaint now goes to, there's deficiency in you, Lord. Like, I am so angry about all of this now that I'm even casting my complaint towards your feet as though you're the source of it.
Yeah.
And the rebuke that Mary receives, that Martha receives, is very beautiful. It's a very gentle rebuke. Martha, you worry about so many things, but indeed only one thing is needed. Mary has taken the better part. It is not to be taken from her. And it's sort of, it's the most gentle putting back in one's box that could ever possibly be, which is it's settlement.
And look, I think there is some beauty to be found even in this act of turning to God and blaming him. I think even in that act, we're only able to do that because we actually have a relationship with him to begin with.
Right.
It's only because we have a level of intimacy with him, we have that depth of relationship that we recognize he should fill every one of my needs and my needs aren't being filled right now.
Right.
And so why am I feeling like this? I will take it to him. So that there's a beauty in that. Like there's a beauty in the fact that Martha took it to Jesus and didn't just stay in the kitchen and bickered and, like there is some level of beauty to be recognized there. Yeah. But I think the false, I think we all do this, right? We can get ourselves into this kind of a space. But I think what we falsely then conclude is that because we believe that he cares about all of our wants and he cares about all of our needs and our worries and desires, that therefore with all of his power and all of his might, that he would save us from experiencing all of these inconveniences.
Right, exactly.
That he would save us from ever feeling worried, ever feeling stressed, because that's what we want. We don't want to feel stressed. We don't want to feel worried. And he doesn't want us to either.
Yep.
That's exactly what he says to Martha. He doesn't want her to worry.
That's right. Let it go.
But he's not the one who's giving us worry.
Right. Exactly.
We're creating that worry.
That's right. And you rightly point out that there is something beautiful here. It is the capacity to speak to the Lord and to proffer one's complaints, right? To put that forward. Yeah. But at the same time, to then be open to the response that we're getting there and to go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not handling this well, am I?
Mm-hmm.
And because he doesn't want that complaint. He doesn't want that grave worry. He just wants us to be at his feet. And when we serve, he wants us to serve in a way that comes from having been at his feet.
Yeah.
Right. This is that's.
Yeah. It's not that the service isn't good.
No, exactly.
It's just the ordering.
It's just the ordering of it, right? Yeah.
So maybe a couple of practical things in order to be able to kind of finish up on this episode.
Let's do it.
One thing I've found really helpful is just a shift in language, moving away from I have to do something. I have to go and get my groceries. I have to go fuel up. Shifting that language to a simple I get to. I get to go and get my groceries. I get to go and fuel up. I get to go to this appointment. I get to go to work. Just shifting that language moves it away from something that I don't want to now a gift that I get to receive.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Another thing is being a bit more mindful of what we let into our lives in order to be able to protect our hearts, to remember that anything that, it, again, comes from Scripture, anything that comes out of us really comes from the place of the heart.
Yes.
So being able to protect our hearts means that we have to be mindful of what influences our lives as well. So what are we listening to? What are we seeing? And noticing, again, my own lesson, noticing that the complaints can feed.
Yeah.
Even the simplest of complaints that started as a joke, left over time, can breed into something that makes us look at the world with all of its imperfections, all of its inadequacies, and all of the lack, instead of all of the blessings and all of the gifts that are in our lives. So all of that gratitude that you were speaking about before. And then also I think it's just bring your worries to God.
Yeah.
It's just have that dialogue with him. We're not saying don't talk to God if you have worries, concerns, fears, things like that. We're saying don't blame God for it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not good that we do that, but bring those to him. Tell him honestly about what your desires are. What do you actually want? And even to be able to say, I feel really inconvenienced by this.
Yes.
I really wish this wasn't here. It's okay to say that. It's okay to bring those to him.
To take up a complaint that is fairly, serious, solid. A couple of years ago, I buried a young man who died in very tragic circumstances, and sitting with his family was a very challenging space. One of the things that I can remember saying to his mum is, don't be frightened to be honest with God. Don't be frightened to be honest with him. He already knows what's going on in your heart. So don't be frightened to be honest with him, to say, God, I'm really angry. And a part of me is angry with you. And not to say it as a way of embellishing that anger, but to say it as just a reality of what's there. Yeah. Just to talk to him about the fact that is there. And you can't, it's just there, and it's just there because of what's happened. And just to say, look, Lord, this is here. I am angry, and I am angry with you. And that's what the psalmist did. Yeah. The psalmists were really clear that that's of what they were feeling, and not to embellish that feeling, but just to be honest with God and say, this is here. This is here. This is where I'm at. Yeah. And so there's a place to be very raw and very honest with God, but never to take that rawness and that honesty and to foist that blame onto God, because what that can unintentionally do is actually change how we see God. If we complain and blame God for the things that have gone wrong in our lives, particularly when things get serious, it can be a case of I completely change how I see you. Yeah, you're no longer a loving father. Yeah, you're this or you're that or you're and none of that's true, right? So being honest and open about how you're feeling with God, but to the point of, Lord, what do I do with this? This is what I feel about you. What do I do with this? And he'll show you. He'll show you because he loves you. Yeah. So, to wrap this business up, is complaining a sin? Depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it can be just, sometimes it's unjust. And that's just the way it is. Complaining is, as you say, Stina, it's often very draining. It often doesn't give us the even when it's justified, I think it's very draining. It's, it takes a lot of energy to complain. So, and it can sometimes lead us away from God, particularly when it's a sinful kind of complaint, where it's a complaint that comes from self-centeredness or from wrathfulness or from a lack of gratitude. So it's probably worthwhile having a think about, well, what am I allowing to inform my thoughts? How am I responding to difficulties in my life? Am I complaining and blaming, or am I seeing opportunities to offer up? Am I seeing things that I get to do, gifts that I get to receive and to give? It's kind of, what lenses am I looking at the world through? Am I looking at it through self-colored lenses or through God-colored lenses? And in short, while complaint isn't always a sin, it's always a good thing to perhaps double check ourselves before we go into complaint mode. Yeah. And very good.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, a truth, beauty and goodness before we end the episode, Padre.
Certainly. So I have recently purchased a new mass setting from Gloria Dei Musica Sacra project. And they're an overseas group. I'm not sure. I think they're from different countries. I'm not sure if they're all from the same
I'm not sure,
place.
yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. But one of our friends, one of your teammates.
One of my teammates, yeah.
One of your teammates is who's Grace Felto, who used to live up the road from me when we were kids. Grace has been part of developing this new Mass setting called the Mass of St. Maximilian Kolbe. It's very, very beautiful. And I'll be asking my choir at St. Michael's Cathedral to start learning it.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's really, really beautiful. Yeah.
Cool.
So if you get a chance, and it's very reasonably priced too. So if you're interested in learning a new Mass setting, can I suggest to you Gloria Dei, Musica Sacra Project, the Mass setting of St. Maximilian Kolbe. Give it a whirl.
Yep, the link will be in the description box.
How about yourself, Stina?
For me, it's been gardening. Spring having sprung, which nobody seems to like hearing, but spring has sprung. There was lots of gardening that needed to happen. So pruning back roses has been interesting. It's been a new adventure. And there is a lot of roses where I live. So that's been really fun. Now I'm just get to kind of sit back and watch and hope that they kind of bloom back better than the last season. So,
okay. Very cool. Very nice. Have that green thumb going.
Yeah.
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 Hopefully it stays green. I'm hoping.
Very good.
Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode. We will catch you again next week. But until then, know thy love and pray.
God bless.